What's on some of those front pages for you now? Well, The Telegraph says that the Prime Minister is planning to ease the rules on illegal migrants by watering down the laws which block them becoming UK citizens and force them to submit to checks on their age. The Express, meanwhile, reports that leading Brexiteers fear Sir Keir Starmer is leading the UK back into the EU as he plans to meet European leaders to forge a new relationship with the bloc. The Mail on Sunday leads with a special report on nurse Lucy Letby, whose baby murder convictions could be in fresh doubt after new papers emerged which suggest she wasn't on duty for a third of the deaths she was accused of. Another famous murder case leads the Sunday People, which says that Jeremy Bamber, who massacred his own family 40 years ago, is making a new bid to have his life sentence overturned. The Times returns to Prince Andrew's business connections with China and new court papers which show that he was viewed by Beijing as a valuable communication channel. The Observer says major betting companies could be forced to overhaul their advertising practices after one problem gambler was sent more than 1,300 marketing emails. The government pledged to crack down on the misuse of AI technology to commit child abuse after a steep rise in cases over the last year is top story in the Mirror. The Star says to expect a massive increase in the number of people throwing a sickie from work, claiming that the recent run of storms has given them a migraine. While The Sun has a story about a winner on the TV series Traitors and possible problems with his marriage. And we are joined tonight by James Rampton and Anita Boateng. Welcome to both of you. Let's start with The Express. And that B word is back. It's back in the news, isn't it? And this is detailing fears that the Prime Minister is going to give major concessions to Brussels. He's meeting chiefs next week, EU chiefs next week. First UK leader to meet with them since Brexit.
That's right. The B word is back. Just when you thought it was safe to reopen the newspapers, the fifth anniversary has opened up a whole new raft of commentary about it. And this really is interesting because it's a key moment for Britain in terms of trade, and Kemi Badenoch here is saying, you know, we must be very careful about reopening the divisions of the past and edging us back into the EU. The Tory leaders saying that today, and it's true that there will be lots and lots of people in those prized red wall seats, particularly that Starmer won back from the Tories at the last election, who will be watching very closely to make sure that we don't, for instance, rejoin the customs union or the single market. I don't think either of those are likely. But in this magic world in which Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, must conjure up growth, she has to find trading partners somewhere. And recent reports have said that GDP has been down 3 to 4% since Brexit because of the lack of trading opportunities with Europe. So he's really caught in a cleft stick here. And as we'll probably go on to discuss, on the other side, he's got the threat of tariffs from President Trump. So he's really caught between the devil and the deep blue sea here.
And Anita, one of the themes that the Sunday Express raises is that he could possibly alienate Donald Trump, who's not too pleased with the EU.
Yes, I definitely think there's a bit of cakeism at the moment in the Starmer strategy, which basically says he can have cake and he can eat it. And ultimately, someone like Donald Trump is not someone that likes to split the pie. He wants the entire thing. And I think that this inability and unwillingness for Starmer and his team to really grapple with some of those inherent tensions may prove to be difficult for him to navigate.
Also, the same theme in the Sunday Telegraph. We can skip to the Sunday Telegraph. Starmer cozying up to EU risks Trump trade war.
Yes, absolutely. And there's one particular detail here. You may have heard Donald Trump saying he absolutely intends to put tariffs on the EU, saying they have treated us so terribly. And so there is some hope that that will not apply to the UK. But nevertheless, there is this juggling act and this positioning which is going to impact, I think, UK-US relations. And just one quick thing on the EU dynamic in and of itself. There is a conversation about the EU in the UK that makes it seem as though it's all within our gift, that ultimately Britain can decide whether it wants to reopen or cosy up or edge closer to Brussels. The fundamental dynamic here is that the UK is going to have to put something serious on the table to have Brussels think it's worth the political pain. So we could well be, I mean, even if that was the goal, we'd be looking at September, October for any movement whatsoever, given the priorities of the EU. And even then, youth mobility is top of that list.
And James, regarding America, I mean, we know that he's introducing 25% tariffs on Mexico, Canada, Chinese, 10% on Chinese imports. The UK wasn't mentioned, which gives a little bit of hope that it won't be.
And those who still have hair left in the Treasury may well be pulling it out at the thought of, 25% tariffs. There's stories that particular threat brought about the end of Justin Trudeau in Canada because it was so cataclysmic, the prospect for the Canadian economy, and it really will total the Canadian economy if he proves true to his word and brings in 25% tariffs. The estimate here is if that he brought in tariffs on Britain, it would cost industry an estimated £2.5 billion a year. That's not money that we have to play with, and there will be terror throughout the Treasury, as I say, at the prospect that he might take against Britain and see us perhaps as cozying up to the EU. So Peter Mandelson, in his new role as ambassador to the US, will have a very diplomatic, obviously, but kind of careful route to tread there, trying to make sure that Trump sees Britain favourably. I would suggest a royal visit within the year is the best way to curry favour with him. He loves the royal family, and they're very, very good at entertaining him.
Interesting suggestion. I wonder if
you heard it here first. Well, you probably didn't actually, but
staying with the Telegraph and the other story that's on that front page is the Prime Minister easing rules for illegal migrants. What's the detail of this story, Anita?
Yeah, it's absolutely fascinating. It's the Illegal Migration Act, which was brought in 2023, so it hasn't existed for very long. And it has two kind of key provisions that are potentially going to be repealed, according to this Telegraph piece. Number one is about whether or not anyone who's entered the country illegally is sort of automatically ineligible for any settled status and ultimately citizenship. And the second thing, which I think has really got the Telegraph's back up, is about the fact that asylum seekers could be treated as over 18 if they refuse scientific, age verification. So this law would mean that that's no longer in place. And the Telegraph's view simply is that under 18s are typically likely to be accepted as asylum seekers, and also that they tend to have different provisions. They're not put in hotels, for instance. They are, they go to school, they have all of that support. And there's an indication that certainly some of these gangs coach adults into saying they're children because they know there's a more lenient system. The important thing here, really, is it underpins, first of all, the multifaceted aspect of the challenge in tackling illegal migration, and also that Starmer doesn't have a sort of single clean story to tell about illegal migration that means he's going to have to suffer front pages like this if he decides to make such changes without having a radical solution for how to tackle small boats.
Just to bring in a quote from the government source saying this is just the Tories trying to cover their tracks where they just fail. The government is keeping the measures on scientific age assessment from the Nationality and Borders Act. They made such a mess of this further clause, they never even commenced it, let alone used it. Labour will continue to use age assessment and won't hesitate to go further in legislation if needed.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you, Anita, that this is right up the Telegraph street. It always depends who's telling you the story, doesn't it? And the Telegraph will absolutely lap up this story, and its readers will be delighted to hear that the PM seems to be easing the rules for illegal migrants, but the devil is in the detail. And as the Telegraph points out in the fourth paragraph, and you just said, Gillian, the Tories, according to Labour, have made such a mess of introducing the powers that they've never been used since they were passed. So either way, it has to be tidied up to make it clearer for everybody.
To the Times, Anita, and tell us about this new book that I don't think Sir Keir Starmer will be keen to read. A chief aide complained he behaved like an HR manager, not a leader, while the Deputy Prime Minister joked that he was so inept he could not run a bath.
Yes, I mean, this has got lots of interesting little tidbits, and I'm sure there'll be some people adding this to their pre-order Amazon carts this weekend. So, effectively, it is one of the dangers of being in politics, is you can kind of give a verdict on someone back in 2021, it can come back to bite you. So, apparently, Morgan McSweeney, who's now the Downing Street Chief of Staff, back in 2021, he was pretty fatalistic about Starmer and sort of said, you know, what is the point, basically, because I'm not sure I see there's a lot of potential here. And there are some great details here about Starmer hiring an acting coach, which incidentally quite a lot of politicians, you know, have these coaches to kind of learn how to deliver and connect and seem authentic, funnily enough. And also some great details about Starmer saying, there's no such thing as Starmerism and there never will be. And I thought that was particularly interesting because it seems that he thinks that's a good thing. And I wonder if one of the challenges of his premiership will be defining what he really stands for. So I think there's certainly some lovely little details in this write-up, and that is a good prelude to the book.
Yeah, James, Dominic Cummings plotted to install Corbyn as Prime Minister.
Well,
That's the one that particularly...
I mean, that really grabbed me because I thought, A, Dominic Cummings is not an elected politician. B, he decides... in his grandiose manner to ditch the Prime Minister that he has helped to install. And C, he wants to install his, you know, ideological opponent in number 10. I mean, Dominic Cummings presumably has magical powers in order to do any of those things. But to put Corbyn in at number 10 because he thought Boris Johnson was getting it wrong on Brexit is absolutely unbelievable until you understand that it was Dominic Cummings saying it, who thought anything was possible as long as he was in charge. But I do think there's a really interesting line. I agree that the lack of Starmerism is very interesting, having just watched the drama about Thatcherism, which was such a powerful entity this week. This book is suggesting Starmer lacks political nous, and you would certainly say that from his first 6 months. I enthusiastically supported him. I was tired of the Tories. I think even the Tories were tired of the Tories. But he came in and he just didn't seem to speak human at all. He didn't get what it is to be a nuanced politician. The first thing he did was get caught in a row about freebies, the famous glasses for passes scandal. What an idiotic thing to do in your first few weeks. Then the second thing he did was limit the access of pensioners to winter fuel allowances, again, guaranteed to alienate a huge number of people who've just voted for you. If you want to be Prime Minister, you have to understand politics, and he doesn't give much of an impression that he does.
Just time to end with the Star gear change. Anita, take us into this story about the weather factoring into people pulling sickies because of migraines.
So this is kind of a double or triple whammy, depending on how you feel. But first of all, you know, the weather, there's going to be 3 months, apparently, of horrendous storms that are about to rock the UK. And then number 2, these are apparently going to cause these crippling migraine attacks on millions. I'm not exaggerating there, that's what the Star claims. And also that I presume that this is going to, I presume, cripple our entire way of working and thinking. So brace yourself, the weather is going to twist our melons.
Yeah. The only standard thing that the Star hasn't done, they haven't mentioned any boffins, have they? No, I don't think they have.
Weather watchers are predicting a surge in sickies. Now, how they've suddenly medical experts as well as meteorological experts, I don't know. I think it's his haircut that's causing migraines, that very strange bowl haircut. He looks in the mirror and goes, ah!
We must go to the real weather now. Okay. Thank you both for the moment. OK, so let's take you through the weather fronts moving off the Atlantic. Will bring spells of wet and windy weather, but there will be brighter interludes in between. Eastern parts of England start Sunday on a bright but chilly note with patchy frost and fog. Further north and west, it'll be cloudier and windier as a band of rain spreads from Ireland into western Britain. The rain band will weaken as it moves across Scotland and western Britain, while sunny spells develop over Ireland and Northern Ireland. Much of central and eastern England will remain dry and fairly sunny. Coming up next on Sky News at 11, we're expecting an update from investigators looking into the air crash in Washington that killed 67 people.
We've got your Sunday mornings covered. From the front page and the sounds of the streets to the voices of the people who make the major calls and big picture politics beyond Westminster. We'll put you at the heart of our story.
I'm ready. Are you?
Join me, Trevor Phillips, Sunday mornings on Sky News.
Weeknights on Sky News.
This is your chance. Tell people.
Welcome to the Politics Hub.
Our police force has apologised.
If you want to find out about Grimsby, you come to the docks.
I'm live in Jerusalem.
Are you not concerned that that could lead to all-out war?
Hello there, good evening. There are fears of an upsurge in violence. What's at stake here?
You are watching the press preview, a first look at the front pages as they arrive.